Good evening, Whakaalofa Lahiatu, and welcome to our bulletin of BCN News for tonight. Leading the news, the Public Service Commission has decided to review the positions of Director Generals. The chairperson of the Commission, Ida Talangi Hikesi, told BCN News that after 7 years, the Commission has decided to review the 3 Director General positions. The government's employing authority will be undertaking a year-long review of the positions of Director Generals for the Ministries of Social Services, Ministry of Infrastructure and Ministry of Natural Resources. The chairperson of the Commission, Ida Talangi Hikesi, says that since taking up the role 10 months ago, she has had to take stock of these ministries and look at the positions of Director Generals.
The Director General positions across the board, which is the 3 directors, they will be under review. As you know, I'm new into the chair position and I have to actually take stock of what's happened in the past, were they effective in their positions, and if not, why. And so we will spend the next year. I've actually just observed every position since I've been here as the chair, And so we'll spend the next 12 months having a look at the position. So at the moment, we have the Director General of Ministry of Social Services. She's been successful, that's Galen Tasmania. And we also have Dr. Josie Tamati for the Ministry of Natural Resources, and she's also been successful. And as you know, the Director of Ministry of Infrastructure was also advertised, unfortunately, the current director, who's the acting at the moment, was not successful, and so, things led to where the successful applicant actually withdrew due to whatever pressures that was put upon him, from all angles. But we will take this year to review the Ministry of Infrastructure and the Director General position, and so we won't have a Director General position in that role.
The introduction of Director General position 7 years ago did create some confusion at the time as to their legal mandate, given the lack of legal reforms to accompany the changes which were part of the government's transformation process at the time. Commissioner Talangi Hikesi says that there will be no Director General position for the Ministry of Infrastructure at this time, and the review process will also look into succession planning.
We have 2 directors that are very, very competent. We have the newly appointed Clinton Chapman, and he brings a wealth of information from overseas, and as you know, he was also based here as well, so he's the Director of Utilities. And we also have Sonia Talangi, who's also been successful in securing her position, and that's how it was before, so we can work. I've actually had a look at the job description of Director General and a Director. It's very similar. It's direct and oversee, have a look at opportunities, capability. The only difference is the reporting, so reporting to the Minister, Secretary to Govern, as well as the newer Public Service. But I can't see why that cannot be done by the Director level, And this also gives us an opportunity to also look at the management underneath that, because it's all part and parcel of succession, so, and also look at our younger generations, because they're coming through, and they're very well qualified. They lack experience, but they're qualified.
The Commission expect that the end result of the review will be improved efficiency and profitability in the service.
The expected outcome is really efficiency, and profitability. We have to look at that, because with our current resources, it just won't work. I come from the private sector, and I think if the public service was in the private sector, we would be very questionable. But it's all about working together, and our biggest asset is our people. And it's just looking at the workforce and making sure that we put people in the right places as well. And look, with the Director General positions, they're aware about the 1-year review, and they're at a level where their role really is advisors to the ministers on economic and social policy, strategic direction. I think what's happened is they've just got caught up in operational stuff, and then the same thing's happening with the directors. They're getting caught up in operational stuff, so they just need to everybody needs to get back in their lane, and we will support them as much as we can through mentoring and leadership and things like that.
The access issues affecting Kiwibank customers since the weekend have been resolved. The General Manager of Kiwibank, Wayne McCogan, confirmed yesterday afternoon that online Kiwibank services are fully restored and customers can now access their accounts. The problem, though, has highlighted a gap in the ICT sector in Niue, with no ICT policy or legal framework for e-commerce on the island. Here's more. During the weekend, Kiwibank customers were not able to access their accounts using the Kiwibank app or online banking. It's understood that Kiwibank, like other bank and organizations in New Zealand, were part of a cyber attack called DDoS, which is described as a denial of service attack carried out by cyber criminals who hijack large number of malware-infected computers. These cyber criminals overload organizations' online services with huge amounts of traffic, so the organizations like Kiwibank can't handle or deal with genuine requests, which is why customers were unable to access their accounts. These types of online criminal activities are common these days, so countries need to be vigilant and up to date with policies and laws to protect customers and businesses operating in the e-commerce space. A national e-commerce assessment conducted in November last year as part of the Pacific Islands Forum's e-commerce initiative found that Niue lacks the key legal framework necessary to enable and regulate online transactions. The report identified that there are currently no regulations covering critical areas such as e-transactions, cybercrime, consumer protection, and data protection law. Other possibly related laws that are still in force have been enacted a very long time ago and thus need upgrading to remain relevant to e-commerce. BCN News spoke to the Pacific Island Forum's Director of Programs and Initiatives, Zara Khan, this week, who said that while conducting these national assessments, Niue is one of two countries in the region without an ICT national policy. Nauru is the other country. Zara Khan says that it is very important to have an overarching ICT policy. Meanwhile, Minister of Finance and Planning, Honourable Crosley Tatui, says that Niue's ICT area is still unstructured and unsecured, even after many years, and that we must get it sorted to avoid security issues we're experiencing. The National Assessment on E-commerce report recommended that Niue carry out a comprehensive regulatory gap analysis on e-commerce, and to draft and adopt the missing laws necessary to create a stable and conducive e-commerce environment. The report also states that Niue should develop a regulatory framework to comply with international best practice, to enable online transactions, provide certainty and protection for consumers and businesses, and thus develop an e-commerce conducive ecosystem. And Niue High School is preparing to trial the new NCEA changes, which will include digital examinations. BCN News spoke with Johnny Tangi, Niue High School's principal nominee, who deals with all NCEA matters.
Of the digital exams, we have DCATs, which is Digital Common Assessment Task. That's one paper done by all schools in New Zealand and in the region as well, just to ensure that all students are at the same standard. So they will all be attempting one paper, and the one paper appears online at a certain time. So that is the time that we are going to be sitting the exams here. So when it comes up, students attempt. They all know what the rules are. They've been training to do these assessments. There are practice exams online that students are able to access. They are now working with their teachers to get them through. So at least they're aware of what to do when they're sitting the exams, because this is actually the first time we're doing it. Our internet service has greatly improved from way before. I think now with the systems that we have now, I think that's really why we wanted to move into this digital exams, simply because of the change in our in the internet connectivity as well.
Jone Dangi explains that in 2 weeks' time, and with the assistance of Telecom Niue, 52 students of Niue High School will be able to trial the external exams via this digital platform.
For digital exams, we've scheduled it for week 9. So that's 2 weeks away. It starts on the 27th. So it's the 27th, 28th and 29th. So we are working in collaboration with Telecom to ensure that we are able to deliver these assessments, because this is basically something that New Zealand is moving towards. New Zealand is actually moving towards paperless exams, at least in 2 years' time. So we thank Telecom for helping us out with this. And on the 27th, 28th and 29th is also the time we'll be testing out our systems, whether we are comparable with the New Zealand ones as well.
The school's computer labs and IT department are equipped with more than 60 computers that are available for the students to take their exams. Mr. Dangi says that they are excited to move into this new digital examination platform and are optimistic of these new NCEA changes. The only concern, if any, is the internet connectivity, that it is able to cope with the number of students who will be taking the exams all at the same time. And we wish those students all the very best with your exams. In other news, as people in Auckland continue into week 5 of level 4 lockdown, so too are about 100 Niue residents who are there for various reasons and are stuck there when the government closed borders to passengers. Some of those passengers are senior public servants. Here's more on that story. Among them is Director of the Project Management Coordination Unit, Felicia Talangi, who is waiting to return home but is not pushing the issue because she wants to keep Niue free from the Delta variant of COVID. She told BCN News that she misses her children and her family and is sad that she will miss her nephew's haircutting ceremony. But having lived through a month-long lockdown in Auckland, she knows how important it is to keep Niue safe from this virus. Also waiting patiently to return is the Director General of the Ministry of Natural Resources, Dr. Josie Tamate, who was on her way back home from visiting her son and family in Melbourne when Auckland went into lockdown last month. Dr. Tamate told BCN News that she doesn't mind the wait because she knows that the team here in Niue are trying their best to ensure risks are low before they are allowed to return. 83% of public servants want to continue working 4 days a week, but the Public Service Commission is looking at opening government departments 5 days while employees maintain their 4-day week. The majority of respondents to the Public Service Survey on the 4-day week conducted earlier this year want to continue with the 4-day week.
With the new government, of course, they had, as part of their review, they were looking at whether to stay with the 4-day week or go back to the 5-day week, taking into consideration when they came in, it's a deficit, and we're still in a deficit situation at the moment. So I think from their part, they're looking at the resources and how they can make it more efficient. So there was a survey that was done by the new Public Service by Hagen, Inspector Hagen, and so the actual results from that, there was 83% that actually wanted to stay with the 4-day week, which is very strong data. You can't go wrong with data, but I think what could happen is we could tweak it where we still have the 5-day services, but it's a 4-day week. And maybe that's a roster. I mean, we do it at the Niue Development Bank. They're open 5 days, but there's a choice of 4 and 5 days for their workers. So it's a matter of like just learning off each other.
It's understood some government departments are open on Fridays, but the vast majority still operate on a 4-day week. The Commission is also looking forward to when the government can offer superannuation for the more than 100 public servants who don't have superannuation cover since the last scheme ceased 6 years ago.
With the superannuation, when I came in, there's a lot of people, as you know, over 100 people that don't have superannuation, but that's really due to external forces as well. The current superannuation that is in play that Niue has had a long relationship with overseas, mainly with New Zealand insurance companies. change their rules, basically. And so Niue really, I think it's timely that Niue looks at their own superannuation, and with this current government, they're very proactive in trying to get that off the ground, not only for the Niue Public Service, but also looking at the private sector, which is just as important, yeah? There's a lot of financial implications and legal compliance that we have to look at, but I think the Cook Islands has a model that maybe Niue can look at. And so at the moment, yes, unfortunately there's some people that don't have superannuation, but we are working very, very hard and proactively towards getting that off the ground with the government of the day.
Meanwhile, the representative body of the government's employees, the Public Servants Association, has been inactive for a number of years, remain dormant, which means no one is speaking out for the more than 100 public servants without super cover. But the Public Service Commission recognises that there should be a representative body for the public servants.
Oh yes, that's something that we will push, because it's really important that the public service employees, they have a voice. I feel that's really, really important for our people.
In June this year, Premier Dalton Tangilanghi announced at the Whanreke Pule that he is pleased with the work that has gone into finding a suitable superannuation scheme for Niue, which will also be available to the private sector. At that time, the Premier said that he is hopeful that the scheme will be ready by the end of this year. Niue ranks 18th out of 22 countries in Oceania when it comes to the cost of 1 gigabyte of data per month. This is according to cable.co.uk, which analyses the cost of internet connection from about 230 countries of the world. Here's more on that story. The ranking is from data collected in February this year, which shows that Fiji tops the list as having the cheapest cost, with about 40 Fijian cents for 1 gigabyte of data, followed by Australia, Samoa in third, Papua New Guinea and Vanuatu making the top 5 countries with the cheapest data. Tonga is ranked number 10. New Zealand is ranked number 11, charging an average of $1.22 US for 1 gigabyte of data. Cook Islands is at number 13 with $1.49. Niue is at number 18 with $4.48 US for 1 gigabyte of data. And at the bottom of the list is Tuvalu at number 19, Nauru at number 20 with $7.62, and Oceania's country with the most expensive internet data is Tokelau with $15.54 US cents for 1 gigabyte of data. And to end our bulletin tonight, local hunters on the island, including the growers, are joining forces with government departments, the Environment Department and the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries to tackle the problem of feral pigs. Api Motufo is an experienced hunter and is working with the officials from the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries and the Environment Department to conduct workshops to teach local hunters and farmers some techniques that will help bring down the number of feral pigs that are causing damages to people's plantations, impacting on food security. This is not a new initiative, but there is a need to teach the local farmers and hunters how to snare and hunt or cull these wild pigs in a humane way. The director of the Department of Agriculture, Poyo Kesene, is encouraging hunters to be mindful of the humane treatment of animals, even these feral pigs. He told of some inhumane methods of trapping the pigs that would injure the animal and it will be left to suffer. This is not the humane way. He says there is a need to find a balance to protect the food plantations, but also to be humane with the treatment of pigs. BCN News is aware that some of the methods of culling the feral pigs are quite dangerous and have killed other animals, mainly dogs. Some people use weed killers by pouring this poisonous chemical into containers that pigs are supposed to drink from, but sometimes the dogs become the victims. Api Motufo says that he is very happy with the response to collaborate with the hunters, government departments and growers to try to minimize the damage to plantations and to cull the number of feral pigs on the island. And that's our news for tonight. Do go up and join the village of Alofi North for their annual village show day on Saturday. But join us again on Tuesday next week for our bulletin in Wangahau. Until then, good night, nono whā.